So welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Maina Chawla Singh. I have taught at universities in India and I have taught at universities in the US. I've been a public speaker at universities in France and elsewhere in Europe and the UK. Obviously, you are looking at our channel, Leverage Edu, and we are reaching out to you, everybody who's interested, especially in study abroad. Our session today is broader. So if you're doing study abroad, it's especially interesting for you. But even if you're not doing study abroad, this is hosted by Leverage Edu, India's top ranking university admissions service. You can find us on all the social media handles, on Instagram, on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. I'm speaking to you as an educator who has advised several of my former students about about the directions they should be taking in their careers. And today I'm going to speak to you about a career which is often referred to as a new age career. It's not an option that used to exist 2 or 3 or 4 decades ago. There was a very small number of people involved in luxury goods and those who were buying the luxury goods. For example, sports cars and so on and so forth. But today, luxury industry is a global industry and there is a global luxury goods market which is expected to increase from approximately $285 billion to $388 billion in 2025. This is the range between 2020 and 2025. The hubs for the luxury industry are New York, Paris, Milan, Tokyo, Shanghai. As you can see, there are Asian cities also which are hubs because there is a growing clientele of those who buy luxury goods in Asia, which is also a newer phenomenon as there are now lots and lots of rich Asians who are in the consumer space for the luxury goods. The US is still the global leader in the luxury goods market. There are careers in the luxury industry that you may not have thought about, which is why I'm doing this session to be able to point certain directions about choices that you can have in this industry. So very often there's a misconception that luxury and fashion are the same. No, fashion and high-end fashion is a part of the luxury industry. The luxury industry is in fact much bigger and encompasses many other products which are part of this ethos. So the session today, I'm going to map it in the following way. First, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking to you about what it is, what makes the luxury industry unique and how it works. Who is it for? So a career in luxury industry, it's not just for you because you're a fashion designer or you're creative. If you are creative, that helps, but it's not necessary at all. And that's what I'm going to speak about is aptitude and options within the luxury goods industry. Third, I'm going to speak a little bit about prospects of brand management as a career and also other jobs related to this industry, which might surprise you. There are also data-related jobs, investment-related jobs, finance-related jobs in this industry itself. And I'm going to conclude with a couple of remarks about the global trends in the luxury industry, especially how things have changed and things are shifting during the pandemic and what we can look at in terms of trends for post-pandemic years, which will surely have made some changes in consumer behavior. So I'm going to start with the what. What is it? So let me just say that, luxury spending is not about need. It's about want. It's about wanting a particular watch or a particular car. And there are lots of cars that work just as well and lots of watches that will give you the time. It doesn't have to be a watch that costs lakhs and lakhs. But this is where the consumer who wants a luxury item is spending with a different kind of logic. And very often that logic is one of emotion. So I want to show you some of these things on a slide because it might be easier to recap. And my first slide is going to be about the luxury items so that you can think more broadly about what the luxury items can be. The first one is really speaking about how luxury items actually encompass a very wide spectrum. They could be high-end clothing. Think of Armani and all the other brand names. They could be accessories, such as jewelry. It could be women's jewelry. It could be men's jewelry. And watches. Watches have always been traditionally a very important part of the luxury market, because if you know anything about the luxury industry, you know that the watches can really cost a bomb. And that is really how you understand luxury products, that they are not because you want to see the time. It's because you want that brand and you want to be associated with that brand. Similarly, luggage. There are designer luggage items, really high end, and there's nothing related to the utility there. Luxury is not utility. Luxury is on its own planet. Similarly, think of luxury cars. Think of sports cars. People who are collectors will have several cars. Luxury items actually consist of many, many different things: wine, yachts, luxury cars, even homes and estates. So imagine you can have a luxury estate on a beach in the Caribbean. So here are a few things to think about: that a luxury product should have excellent high-end design, a feel, a look, and a label. So I have this acronym for you here, which is DDFL, to think of how a design product is thought about. So the careers in luxury. Now, this industry has wide-ranging careers. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's not just fashion. You could have designers who are looking at very high-end stores and doing window dressings for the Gucci store or the Tiffany store or the Dior. But not only that, you have a buyer who chooses the items, the products. You have communication managers, you have strategy consultants, you have fashion investment analysts. So you actually have consultants and analysts who are looking at investment in fashion. How do we explain that? You know that there are lots of angel investors who actually invest in the luxury industry. So they need analysts who will advise them about what are the brands that are coming up and what are the brands that are not doing so well. So this is how you can just be doing so many different things within the luxury industry. So I want to say that just being head of the sales at BMW or just doing digital branding is not the only thing. There are many, many other avenues within the luxury industry. I also want to say a little bit more later about digital branding. So we move on to our next slide. Does aptitude matter? Are you culturally sensitive? That's going to make a big difference. But if you're not, there are all these other possibilities. Within that, it helps if you can spot style, but this is only important if you work with products and clients, because otherwise a brand manager is going to be doing multiple other things for which they need client relationships, they need management, they need strong communication skills, they need to be able to basically, that customer is so critical. So analytical thinking, creative storytelling, tech and social media savvy, data-driven approach, all of those things are really, really important. Aptitude is important, but it doesn't have to be the thing that will make or break your career in the luxury management space. What makes a great brand manager, therefore, are lots and lots of skills which are personal skills. So they are skills which come from being a good manager, a good brand manager, but in the luxury industry, you need to also understand that the luxury industry and luxury products are different. They are unique because, as I said earlier, the customer is high end. The customer is fussy, discerning, very particular. Things have to be just so. They have to be perfect. That's why they're going to pay the price for it. So we can come on to the next one. And I want to tell you a little bit about global institutions. So there are actually a lot of institutions which offer programs in luxury brand management. They are in different parts of the world. And typically they are institutions which offer an MBA. And within that, there will be specializations. There could be fashion merchandising, there could be fashion management, there could be product design, there could be high-end real estate. There would be courses on many, many different things, because luxury goods are goods that are for personal use. But as I said, they're also items which are like the real estate. So if you're doing a management degree and you're doing a course or specialization in luxury brand management, you need to understand the commodity, the product, and its usage, and how it can be projected, how its projections can be anticipated, how pricing can be successful, because it's not about what it costs and your margin of profit. Your margin of profit is going to consist of all that brand management and advertising that you do, all the models that are hired. And for example, just think of a yacht or think of a sports car and think of what advertising they would need to do and where. Who would these people be? Who are these clients? What do they fly? Where do they go? Where do they live? What sort of houses do they have? And how does this fit in with their lifestyles? So it's a very different space and a very fascinating industry when you think of a product and of branding and of marketing that product. These are not products which people buy in 10s and 15s. They don't necessarily buy it because they might need it. They may not ever need it. They want it. And that is what classifies a luxury item. So coming back to this list, there's the ESSEC Business School in France. Now I'm stopping here a moment to say that you know that Paris is a place for luxury brands. From the top 10 luxury brands, the first 3 are from France and the 4th is Italian. And I will let you Google that and figure that one out. I will tell you that Chanel and Hermes are part of that. And Hermes is Hermes, and that is how it is pronounced in French. So the ESSEC Business School, which is situated in Paris, just off Paris, is one of those which offers courses in that and specializations. Paris is also the fashion capital, as is New York, which is why if there's anything to do with fashion or designing or design, in fact, Paris is a place to be, and France is one of those places. I also want to say that when it comes to the other luxury items like perfume and like wine, again, France is the place. Bordeaux is the name of a wine, but is the name of a place in France. Similarly, Chanel grows its flowers in certain areas of southern France. And so France is quite the place to be and to study there so that you can understand what the luxury industry offers and how it operates. Then there is the Bocconi School of Management, which is in Milan. So Milan is also a fashion capital, not so much for other luxury goods, but certainly Italy is for a lot of apparel, for clothing, for personal items, and a lot of the luxury brands for clothing are from Italy. Shoes, accessory, clothing, Italy is right on top, leather goods as well. I'm moving now to another school, which is NYU, the Stern School of Business in New York. New York is also the fashion capital. It is the fashion capital of America. And it's sort of like a counterpart to what Paris is in Europe. And the US, as I said, is the largest market for luxury goods. So that's important too. Both New York and Paris have some of the internationally most acclaimed fashion shows and designer shows where new designers show their talent. So there's a lot of space there to be able to study and also live in an ethos which offers opportunities for internships, for study, for being able to meet people in that industry and be able to find opportunities for yourself. Columbia University, which is known for many, many other excellent academic programs, also has a program that deals with the luxury industry. All this should actually tell you that the luxury industry has become an important avenue that people are increasingly engaging with. There was a time when it was about loyalty and brands, which is that people continue to buy the same brands for 2 generations and 3 generations. And that has been changing in this century because the millennials, new money which has come through tech, through venture capital, through Silicon Valley and startups, is now looking at new designers. They are not just stuck with old traditional design houses, but they are willing to look at new designers who are working in the luxury goods space. I want to say that these are courses which are now also available in India, and probably the best is the ISB in Hyderabad, which is the business school that I'm sure you all know about. So I want to go a little bit now into global trends in the luxury industry. There has been a change, that, as I mentioned, with the millennials growing up. They are much more questioning about overconsumption. Luxury is about consumption patterns which are not the most economical and sometimes not the most environment friendly. So millennials have been questioning that and rejecting overconsumption in favor of experience. They don't just want to own something that sits in their cupboard or their collection or their closet, but they're also thinking loyalty and willing to try new things. This is an important shift in the luxury industry. Millennials, young, rich people who don't come necessarily from old, moneyed families, they want more transparency. How many animals were killed in this? How much of the environment was harmed for this? They also want authenticity in the product. They want the designers to be able to talk about it. So they want their products to be experience driven. They want to feel engaged in what is the origin of the product. Therefore, many of the design houses have now started saying something about how no animals are harmed. For example, there is a whole range of what is now called conscious fashion or sustainable fashion. What does this mean? This means, I'll give you an example. For example, in the weaving of silk, in the industry of silk, the silkworm typically in the process of making silk would die. And that was a loss of life. They now have sustainable silk, and this is also happening in South India, where the cocoon actually does not die. They're able to extricate silk from the silkworm without actually killing the silkworm. And so that would be much more expensive. The process would be more expensive. But for a lot of millennials who are interested in luxury goods and can afford them, they feel much better about the ethics of what goes into the making of a luxury item. The thought of the skins of many animals going into making one fur coat or one suitcase is not very comfortable for a lot of people who are questioning this in our times. I want to say finally a little bit about what's happening to the luxury industry post-pandemic. Everybody knows that the pandemic has shaken markets. It has completely transformed consumer behavior. Restrictions on going out have changed the way people want things and the way people need things. This has also shocked many of the markets and many of the larger stores in different parts of the world. When I say larger stores, I mean stores like Dior and Hermes and Tiffany, many of them because they were in prime real estate in the big metropolitan cities of the world. They were just paying too much rent. Their staff was too expensive. The real estate was too expensive, and they have closed many of their smaller stores. What is this going to do to the industry? We don't know how much of this is going to change in terms of the volumes. We know that certain modes are going to change. For example, for the first time about a year ago, many of the brands decided to go into some online collections. They used animations and they used digital technology of the highest and the best kind, the most refined technology to give users the experience by just clicking on things, to be able to feel and get a sense of what the textures are like, and so on and so forth. So I want to say that there is a shift in this industry, just like many other industries, because consumer attitudes are changing, values are changing, customer behavior is changing. We know that industries like hospitality and aviation has suffered and may not recover quite the same way after the pandemic. With the luxury industry, we see a lot of innovation in place, and they are strategizing. They are hiring more and more professionals who are from the investment space, who are from technology, who can combine technology and strategy for their market and their branding. For example, some of the top fashion shows last fall were streamed live, and that was something that would be unheard of from New York or Paris. The whole experience was supposed to be you're sitting there and watching the models on the ramp, but that had to change. So there's more and more of online experience. And even when brands like Gucci are willing to experiment with live streaming, then we know that there is a lot of turbulence, and turbulence can lead to innovation. And so for all of you who are thinking of careers with your degrees in management, data, investment, finance, and so on, do not rule out the luxury industry. It is a growing industry, and it's going to come out with different options, both for the consumers and for those who make this industry spin. So there are shifts in values, there are shifts in strategies, and there will be a shift in this industry, and you can be a part of it. So I'm not listing more schools and telling you where to go. I just wanted you to understand the trends and what makes this industry tick. So I'm going to end with that. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with us on Leverage Edu TV. Thank you. Bye.